This is Bandit, the Atari 8-bit podcast.
Meltdown was causing some special issues. Apparently the American Nuclear Society took offense to it. People would develop harmful misconceptions and phobias about the peaceful use of nuclear power.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Stephen Romejko published two programs through Atari Program Exchange, Meltdown and Moon Marauder. Meltdown was first available in the winter 1982-1983 APX catalog. Moon Marauder was first available in the fall 1983 APX catalog, where it won third prize in the consumer category. I'm going to read a portion from each of those catalog descriptions. Meltdown, recommended for ages 8 and up. A small-town nuclear power plant has sprung a leak in its cooling tower. As the lone night watchman, you're faced with maintaining a safe water level in the tower to prevent a nuclear disaster. To do so, you carry buckets of water from the basement up to the roof and over the water tower, where you empty them and run back for more. But the leak in the tower has caused the radioactive water to run off into a nearby reservoir. The contaminated water is creating strange behavioral changes in the plant's mice population. They now actively seek humans, and you're the only one around. Played with a joystick controller, Meltdown offers several challenges. First, you fill your bucket by lightly tapping the joystick. Too heavy a hand results in overfilling and spilling the water. Then, you use the joystick to climb all the stairs, jumping over any pursuing mice to reach the top of the tower without tipping the bucket, and then empty the water into the tower. You've got to keep the water level up, trying to fill the tower faster than it's leaking. A water level indicator shows how you're doing. If the indicator reaches bottom, meltdown occurs, annihilating you, the plant, and the surrounding area. His other game was Moon Marauder. Attack enemy installations on the moon, recommended for ages 8 and up. You are the Earth's last hope. The evil lizard people from the Omega J5 system have sent an expeditionary force to the moon, and they're building installations there for a final attack on the hapless Earth. Your orders are to attack with your starfighter to give the Earth time to prepare her defenses. But beware, Omegan fighters and guided missiles patrol the airspace above the moon, eager to die to defend their bases. When it seems your mission is nearly complete, the enemy rebuilds the installations in greater numbers. Now to your fighter and good luck. This interview took place on April 14th, 2018.
Well, I went to UMass Amherst. I think PDP-8s were the thing back then, refrigerator-sized computers are bigger that you programmed with paper tape. And I only took a couple of classes in computer science because I was an electrical engineer. And I don't know, I got hired by General Electric to work on guidance systems, C4, D5 guidance systems for the Trident submarines. And I don't know, as time went on, home computers started coming out, but they were, pretty pricey at the time. Even the Atari was probably $2,000 or so. So I had an opportunity to take a job where I was going to be in Roanoke, Virginia for 6 months or so, and I had just gotten married, and I wanted to keep myself out of trouble, I guess. So I bought the Atari computer and I took it with me. And in addition to the furniture that they rented for my apartment, I insisted on a TV and a desk. And I spent most of my time at that desk with that TV and the Atari 800 doing the first video game that I did, which was Meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. I mean, I basically worked on it 7 days a week, after work till the wee hours of the morning. I'd go to bed, and on weekends as soon as I get up, I'd get coffee and I'd work on it all day. Well, I kind of had my goal was kind of to get something in for that's when they announced that grand prize of, $25,000 or something. and that kind of thing. And I said, I kind of set that as a goal to try to get something in for that. And turns out Meltdown didn't win anything, but Moon Marauder did. I ended up getting, I think it was third prize. I'm not sure, but I have a nice plaque, a laser-generated plaque that they gave me for Moon Marauder.
Nice.
It's still on the wall. Some 20, 30 years later. So, yeah. Never did any assembly language before that or since then, but yeah. It was kind of fun at the time. And I enjoyed doing video games. It's just that, when you started with the Activisions and Electronic Arts and all those companies started doing it, seriously, it was hard to compete being a single person, against a staff of people that had a lot of, different backgrounds and different expertise. So that's when I kind of gave up on it.
So how did you taught yourself assembly language from a book or what?
I'm not even sure. No, I didn't have a book. I mean, the one book I do remember having was De Re Atari.
Sure.
In fact, that's what gave me the idea. When I did Meltdown, one of the things in De Re Atari talked about, taking the sprites and clipping them on the horizontal blank, which people today probably don't even know what a horizontal blank is, or a vertical blank, but basically, you know what it is?
Listeners to this podcast do, absolutely.
Okay. But yeah, it's really amazing how much you could get done in the vertical blank and how little you could get done in a horizontal blank. But you could clip the sprite and move it and change its color, so you could, you turn one sprite into 8 or 10 sprites, or well, no, that's exaggeration.
Right.
I guess 1 into 5 was possible, and that's where I got the idea, was from De Re Atari. In fact, the second one, there was a lot of discussion in there about Eastern Front 1941, and when I did Moon Marauder, I wanted to have a scrolling map,
Mm-hmm.
In this case, flying over a planet, but again, that's kind of where I got the idea for that. So that, I guess I owe something to that book. But that was the only book I read. I mean, I don't know. I mean, assembly is pretty basic. There's not much, there's not a lot to learn, I guess. It's just,
right.
And there's not a lot you can do one step at a time either. So, yeah. So it was just time consuming, just trying to get it right. That's all.
And did you just use the Atari Assembler editor cartridge for that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, I had an Atari computer. I had the 810 hard drive, or not, floppy drive. I had the cassette recorder, and I had a printer. That was it.
Nice. So when
Obviously a joystick or so.
Sure. And when you won third prize in the consumer category for Moon Marauder, did they send you any more hardware?
I recall it being like $1,000 worth of merchandise or something, and I think I got a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I might have gotten. I think they did send me the cassette player actually, or recorder or whatever, because they wanted, when I sent Meltdown in, they wanted a cassette version of it, and I think they sent me the cassette to help me get to that point. And so I did end up getting both programs on both formats. And the thing about Meltdown is it was doing pretty well. I don't remember the exact statistics, but it was selling very well. And then I got the next magazine, the Atari, or the what the heck was it called? Atari Program Exchange.
The catalog
offerings for
mm-hmm.
For the quarter or whatever.
Yeah. And
Meltdown was under the soup can. I don't know if you remember the soup can, but
no.
They had some games or programs had like a full page. some had a half page, and then once you got to the soup can, you only got like a quarter page or less.
Right.
You know, so those were the ones that were kind of phasing out, and you know, like I said, I from my understanding, Meltdown was doing pretty well. And as a matter of fact, I went into a mall in Albany one day, and I think it might have been a Sears. And I went into the store, and it was a whole rack of Atari Program Exchange programs, and Meltdown was there, and I was like, oh, wow. You know, it was like the big time, you know. And so that was pretty cool. But
nice.
So I couldn't understand why I was under the soup can. Well, Christmas Day, believe it or not, I got a phone call from somebody at Atari, and he explained to me, you know, that Meltdown was causing some special issues. Apparently, the American Nuclear Society took offense to it. In fact, an exact quote was that people would develop harmful misconceptions and phobias about the peaceful use of nuclear power, and particularly the young people would be affected. And I was like, there was an article in the Hartford Courant where some guy, I don't remember his name, Oscar De La Renta, it was something like that. That was a joke, by the way.
Yeah, you got that.
Anyway, he wrote into the Courant, and it was this big thing, you know. And so the guy that called me from Atari, you know, I said to him, I said, you know, I'm going to write a letter to your CEO or whatever. And he goes, oh, we just got a new one. And it was John Ferrand, I think, at the time. And this was on a Friday, I think. Mm-hmm. And so he gave me the guy's name, and I didn't know he had just been named. The funny part of it is he hadn't officially been named yet. So I wrote a letter to him, and I sent it out Monday morning, you know, and I guess this guy called me back. He says, whatever you do, don't tell him I gave him the name because, you know, apparently he was pissed that I knew he was going to be named before he was named or something. You know, I don't know. And but anyway, I was going to dig that letter out before we talked, but I didn't have time. But I'm not sure because I'm not exactly sure where it is. But one of the things I remember saying in the letter was, you know, is Robotron an actual portrayal of life in the 21st century? You know, is Centipede an actual portrayal of life in a mushroom patch? Because they basically said that Meltdown wasn't an actual portrayal of nuclear power, you know, or whatever. But in fact, they compared it to a game called Custer's Revenge, which I honestly didn't know what it was until recently.
It's kind of an infamous Atari 2600 game.
Yeah.
That's problematic at best.
Yes. In the gameplay, it was nothing like it. So I don't understand why they did that, why they compared it to that, you know.
Huh.
But I guess they were just trying to get it off, you know. They didn't want it to be on sale anymore. So
Do you still have that? Do you still have that letter, or was that only a phone call?
I have the letter that I wrote.
Okay, I would love to see it if you find it.
I actually think one of the vice presidents wrote back to me and sent me, you know, there was like markups on the page, like check into this, you know, because it was something about, you know, they were looking into what you know, why Meltdown was pissing off the Nuclear Society people so bad, you know, and so the CEO actually had tasked one of his vice presidents to look into it, and I guess their solution was to stop selling it. So,
that's super interesting. Atari also had a game that they sold themselves called Scram, in which you ran a nuclear power plant, and of course, if you did it wrong, the whole thing would blow up. I wonder if the nuclear people had a problem with that one too.
Well, mine blew up at the end too. They also said it was a complete ripoff of Donkey Kong, which I'm not even sure Donkey Kong was out yet at that point. When I first did it, I mean, I know I hadn't played Donkey Kong, but you know, Donkey Kong was more similar So yeah, I could see where that reference came from.
Huh.
Because you jumped over things and you tried to get to the top,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So,
Oh, that's
I don't know if you
super
ever
interesting.
played the games. Did you ever play the games we're talking about?
Yes, I've played them.
Meltdown's tough. If you get behind it right at the beginning, you can't catch up. Which that was to me was not a good feature of the game. I should have come up with a way to get you back in the game. I actually scored over 1 million points on that game once when I was testing it.
Wow.
And now I don't even think I can get 1,000. Anyway, not that it matters. But obviously I can't change it now. I mean, I have our local school actually at one point had a classroom full of Atari computers, and I had helped them set them up. And when they finally phased them out, probably for Apple products, I'm not exactly sure for what, but they offered them to me. So I have a bunch of 800 machines, but I don't know if I could actually ever, do anything with them again.
They should still work.
Be motivated enough. Yeah. Oh, they definitely work. It's just, I mean, nobody would care that I made Meltdown better at this point, is what I'm saying.
I can think of a couple hundred people who would, but they are all listening to this podcast. So you said you made some money off of these programs. Are we talking hundreds or thousands of dollars? Just kind of give me a sense of how they did for you.
I mean, I don't really remember 100%. I mean, my goal initially was, like I said, I remember ordering. In fact, I remember putting the order into a mailbox. We actually, before we had the internet, we actually had to mail things in to order things. And I remember mailing, when maybe it was a rebate or something. I don't know. I remember mailing something when I first got the Atari 800, and I remember thinking that, wow, it's a lot of money, and if I could make back enough to pay for the computer, I'd feel pretty good about it, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think between the checks that Atari sent me, which I think some of them were in the hundreds, I don't think any of them were in the thousands, but they came quarterly, and the $1,000 worth of merchandise that Moon Marauder won, I think I probably broke even or maybe a little better. I don't know.
Nice.
That's my recollection. Maybe that's just what I want to believe, but I think that's right, actually. That I came out ahead, but but obviously didn't get rich on it.
Sure. All right, so we talked a lot about Meltdown. We haven't really talked too much about Moon Marauder yet. Tell me about that, where the idea came from. Did you write the copy about the evil lizard people, or was that from APX?
The evil lizard people? I don't remember that.
You are the Earth's last hope. The evil lizard people from the Omega J5 system have sent an expeditionary force to the moon, and they're building installations there for a final attack on the hapless Earth.
I don't think I did that. I think that was their words. But I like it.
Good.
Again, the section of Day Ray Atari that talked about how they did the maps for Eastern Front 1941, and the idea of having something wider than the screen and to be able to scroll over the map type thing. So that was the idea anyway, that I wanted something larger or wider than the screen, and something that you could scroll over. And it probably had some asteroids in that, you had ships coming in from the side, making noises that to disturb you while you were trying to do the main thing you were trying to do. I mean, I think there was some influence from, those little ships in asteroids. But yeah, it was mostly the idea came from Day Ray Atari and Eastern Front 1941, even though it was a space type thing.
It's a good looking game. Well, love the graphics on it.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, there's some guys in work now. They're actually, a couple of them have made the the Raspberry Pi retro game.
Mm-hmm.
and they've downloaded my game and put it on there. So that's kind of cool too. Guys that I work with that are basically my kids' age.
Yeah.
Are now playing my games and playing other games at that time.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat. And actually, I built one myself, and it was kind of cool playing the original Asteroids again. The 1979 version of this. The black and white. And when the ship breaks apart, it's just three lines that kind of break apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your work. What do you do today?
Most recently, I've been working on the Littoral Combat Ship. I work for the same company as I worked for back then, but General Electric at one point decided they didn't want to be in the military anymore, so they sold out to Martin Marietta at the time. And then Martin Marietta merged with Lockheed Martin, so we became Lockheed Martin. And then they sold our business to General Dynamics, who took, at the time I was working on the Bradley fighting vehicle, and that moved to Michigan with the Abrams tank and, the tank business. So, we still do Trident work here, both the fire control and the guidance systems. We also do quite a few ships, high-speed vessel, which is a kind of a transport. I'm not even sure. I just see the picture on the wall, to be honest with you. I'm not even sure what branch of the service uses that. Ours is obviously the Navy. It's meant to go into, shallow water areas. Hasn't got a lot of great press, only because the program has taken longer than they said it was going to take. Mm-hmm. And they decided at this point, the Navy bought about 30 ships. Half of them are ours and half of them are Lockheed's. And they've decided they want something with more armor and more firepower. So we're actually transitioning to a frigate program from the LCS. But I tend to get the things that involve graphical interface type stuff. I guess most recently, video. Video graphical. That's kind of funny. I never even really thought about it, but yeah, taking displays that are on people's consoles and throwing them up to a larger display in a situation room type thing where
Mm-hmm.
more people can look at it and that kind of thing. Yeah. Right now I'm actually working on a simulator for a chaff launcher for the LCS that's going to be used in our trainer out in San Diego.
Nice.
Thinking about retiring, but I haven't done that yet.
Cool. So getting back to Atari stuff, did you work on any other programs that maybe weren't published?
Nope. I just did the two, and both were published. Unfortunately, the first one came out against the Beast, My First Alphabet, mm-hmm. which apparently did really, really, really well.
Yeah. And
actually, I don't know if the second one came out when Caverns of Mars came out. Caverns of Mars was definitely a great game, too. But yeah, I guess my timing wasn't the best.
Right.
But
yeah, you came out. Your second one, Moon Marauder, came out against Getaway, which was the big winner. Which was a pretty great game too.
I'll have to play that one. I don't know if I've ever played that one. Where can I buy it?
you can download it from Atari Mania and put it into your emulator, and or actually you have real Ataris if you want to, so you can set them up there. So not so easy to buy anymore.
I actually, it was probably about a year ago, I actually plugged in an 800 and used it on a TV, which I hadn't done in quite some time. I mean, I have played some of the games with my kids, on a laptop, that kind of thing, with an emulator. But now that I've been kind of playing around with the Raspberry Pi, there might be one in their Christmas stockings this year.
Nice.
little mini games that they can play around with. The only problem, and I don't know if there's a way around this, but the only problem is the Atari 800 games kind of require a keyboard to get them started at this point. I wish that wasn't the case, but so if anybody's listening out there that's working on emulators, come up with a better way of starting Atari 800 games. So anyway, kind of fun.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so what haven't we talked about the Atari time that we should have?
I guess the only other thing I can think of is my mother-in-law at the time wanted to be able to play my games. So I remember driving over to Albany when Christmas time in the snow, and going into a store and buying an Atari 400 for her. Mm-hmm. And I got a pretty good deal on it, except on the way home, I got stopped for speeding, and the speeding ticket cost me more than the 400. That was unfortunate. Mm. I mean, I didn't get many speeding tickets in my time, but that was a poorly timed one. I was trying to do something nice,
Yeah. Did you get any feedback from APX about things they wanted changed in the software or anything?
The only thing was can you get us a cassette version? Mm-hmm. And when I did Moon Marauder, I already knew they wanted it, so I published or delivered both of those for that one. But when Meltdown came out, like I said, I was kind of on a deadline, and so I didn't even learn on how to do that, how to create a cassette version. And I do recall, I think I had to make some changes in the game to even fit it on the cassette, but I ended up getting it to them on time. So yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was so cool to be able to have them calling me and talking to them, because at the time, as you know, it was, if it wasn't the best game system, it was certainly right up there. Mm-hmm. Although I have to be honest, I have appreciated some of the older Nintendo games that I never really spent any time with. I've played a little of those on the Raspberry Pi, and there's some great graphics there. Mm-hmm. For the same. It was probably later, but it still wasn't too much later.
Yeah. If you could send a message to the Atari 8-bit users that still exist, and you can right now, what would you tell them?
I don't know. I can't believe they're still doing it. I mean, it seems kind of crazy to me. I mean, well, actually, I shouldn't say that because, like I say, I've started playing some of the old games again myself. Because to me, some of the newer games are just too complicated. I don't want to spend the time to get good at them. You know what I mean? Where the games of that time and that era, you could basically anybody could pick it up and play it. With a few simple instructions. And I get maybe that's what the draw still is, but that's what it is for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I think I have what I need. This was great. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Okay, very good.
If you enjoy these interviews and would like to contribute, there are two ways you can help. You can help fund these interviews directly by contributing to my Patreon. A small monthly contribution will help offset the expenses of making these oral history interviews. Contribute at patreon.com/Savitz. Or make a tax-deductible contribution to the Internet Archive, a nonprofit digital library that has done incredible things to preserve computer history. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate. Thanks.